Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Vedic Living. Today, we'll be talking about the predictions for the month of December. I know there's been a little bit of a gap in the month of November as I was not feeling well. I had major health problems going on, and I'm hoping to be more frequent in my predictions from now on. Hopefully, I get to come and talk to you more often than before. And that is the goal anyway, but we'll see what the planets have in store. But I do want to give you a good prediction video for the month of December because this month is high activity. There's so much going on. And each time I do readings for my clients, I see these transits. And every time I think I need to make a YouTube video because everything that's going on in December is kind of the closing of this entire year. And rightfully so, it's the last month of the year. But astrologically, it seems to be a logical ending to a lot of things that have been going on for a long time. And I'm not just talking about the elections in the United States. As you know, the elections got over in November. I'm not just talking about that, but overall in the world, everywhere you would see things are starting to wind down. But that last kind of flare up happens, right? When things are about to wind down, there's always this flare up that happens. And that is the energy of the month of December. It is not going to be a calm landscape. In fact, on the contrary, it's going to be a pretty much shaky kind of ground at this point. But a lot of things are going to shake up and change because it's setting the stage up for the coming year. The year 2025 is going to be monumental, not just in United States, it's everywhere in the world because I have been looking at the predictions for the year 2025 for pretty much every country that I have a chart for and every world leader. And I'm seeing changes in good way happening in almost every country. The first part of the year is going to be tough because we still have these energies of planets being in, like Mars being in debilitation and Saturn still being in Aquarius and things like that. But as we go towards the later part of the year, around the months of September, October, and the end of 2025, things are going to be very positive because Jupiter is going to move into Cancer for a few months temporarily. It is going to be in Cancer for a whole year in 2026. But in the end of 2025, it's going to be there for a few months. And that's nice because Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And in Cancer, it's exalted. It's in the strongest position it can be in. So the end of 2025 is going to be a very positive, a period of growth economically, financially, and personally for a lot of people, depending on where Jupiter is falling in your chart. So I'm doing very extensive predictions for the year of 2025. So wait for that video to come up. I will be posting that too. But I want to make sure that I kind of cover all the countries that I'm able to cover and world leaders. So that is coming up. However, right now, let's look at the month of December, what this month has in store for us, because the past few months have been very, very volatile and changing. The reason for that is the planets are all retrograde. Jupiter is retrograde in Taurus. Saturn is retrograde stationed in Aquarius. And this is actually a major kind of time frame that we are in right now because with these planets being retrograde, past is being reviewed. Past issues are coming back up. People are talking about, remember when that happened or remember when this happened. The reason we talk about the past and review the past and reassess is because the planets are retrograde. That's the time for reviewing and reassessing. So that's the energy we are in right now. As we go into December, things are going to be a little more changing. Now, as you all know, Donald Trump won the election in the United States, and it was pretty much a landslide. And I predicted his win in August of 2023. If you go back and I'll see if I can link the video below this, but if you go back and look at my previous videos, in August of 2023, I made a video on Trump. And I predicted that if he makes it through September, then he will win the election. It's a very, very favorable time for him. And yes, it was tough for him till September with all the cases and the assassination attempt and the legal problems. But after that, you saw that his, kind of his graph was trending upwards, right? So how I made the prediction is purely based on astrology, right? I don't follow politics. I'm not a political person, and I don't understand it to begin with, to most of the political processes, but I do understand astrology, and I love looking at charts of people who are about to bring about change because it really does show up in their chart. So when I looked at his chart from a Parashara standpoint, and then I kind of complemented it with the Gemini aspects, it was very clear that he's going to win. There was no doubt about it. So, and his dashas were also very strong. So, you can watch that video. But again, that was part of my 2024 predictions that I did last year. And in my 2025 predictions, you will find a lot of these things that I'm talking about in terms of countries and world leaders. So hopefully, when it is ready, you will enjoy that. Now, December, like I said, is high activity astrologically. The first thing that's going to happen is Mars is going to station. It's going direct right now in Cancer. Although Mars is debilitated in Cancer, it's going direct, but it's going to station on December 6th to the 7th at 11 degrees of Cancer. And in my last video, I talked extensively about this degree mark and how it is going to affect world leaders and celebrities and charts and things like that. But one of the main things that's going to happen as Mars is preparing to go retrograde backwards in Cancer is that the real estate markets are not going to get much benefit out of it because real estate is ruled by Mars. Now, I do have to say, though, in the end of 2025, it's going to be the opposite. All the economic, financial, real estate markets are all going to turn up because Jupiter is going to go into Cancer, which is the sign of home and comfort. So that's a different energy. That's the opposite energy to what is happening now. Now, with Mars being debilitated and retrograde and it's about to station, people are not happy, right? There is a lot of anger and kind of discontent with what is going on. And as I said in my last video, two of the charts that I've seen that 11-degree mark really prominently is China and Israel. I've seen it in both those charts. In fact, I've also seen it in the Chinese ruler, Xi Jinping's chart. So all these charts are getting activated by the retrograde Mars in the coming month. So, you should watch for some major activity globally and maybe even some violence in those particular countries. Now, the next 2 to 3 months, there's a lot going on with these transits. And a lot of that is not going to be amazing because Mars is debilitated and retrograde. It's not going to do much good for the world, but Mars is not the only planet in the sky. While it is bringing about discontent and unhappiness and anger and violence, there are other transits that are going on that will be more positive. So the first week of December, like I said, these countries that I talked about, their charts are getting activated. And with Mars going backwards, violence could erupt in these countries. Now, Venus is in Capricorn. That's the next planet I want to talk about. Venus being in Capricorn all month, pretty much all through the month of December. It is not a great placement for Venus, especially because Pluto also is in Capricorn. So on December 7th, exactly at the time where Mars is stationed to go retrograde, Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto. Pluto is the planet that rules destruction and betrayal. There's going to be problems here, right? In personal lives, in your personal lives, you may see that there is some deception going on or somebody's betraying you in one-on-one relationships because Venus rules all one-on-one relationships. But in world matters, this rules countries who are allies with each other. So there could be some sort of betrayal happening around this time and with relationships breaking up in world matters as well as in personal matters. So watch out for the first week of December. It's going to be a little difficult. Now, Mercury turns retrograde at 28 degrees of Scorpio on November 26th. and it's going to be retrograde till December 15th. So those of you who are making travel plans during this time, just remember when Mercury is retrograde, there can sometimes be a little bit of delays and problems in traveling because Mercury rules travel. There can be flights that are canceled or some delays and things like that. But again, you have to look at your personal chart. You have to see if this Mercury is activating anything in your chart. It doesn't apply to everybody. Now, Mercury being retrograde at 28 degree of Scorpio, what does it mean in world events? Mercury rules media and the news. And when Mercury goes retrograde, the news is misleading. The media is misleading people. There is a lot of misinformation flying around. And in Donald Trump's chart, this 28 degree mark is very important because as Mercury turns retrograde, it's going to be exactly on his moon in Scorpio, 28 degrees, and opposing his sun in Taurus at 29 degrees because Trump was born around a full moon. So his moon and sun are at that 28 degree mark in Taurus and Scorpio. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's going to be exactly on his full moon, which means that the media could be turning against him. And this is all through the end of November till the mid of December that this is happening. A lot of misinformation can be spread. There can be attacking that the media is doing on him. Things like that could be going on because Mercury rules internet, technology, media, and telecommunications. So just remember that. Now, the full moon in December also, coincidentally, although nothing is coincidence in astrology, there's a divine plan to everything. The full moon in December is at 29 degrees of Scorpio. There you go again. That degree mark is activated. So there are two major events happening in December, which is activating that 28 to 29 degree mark in Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign. What are the last couple of degrees of a water sign called? It's called Gandhanta, which means that there is the feeling of being out of control. So the media could be really spinning a lot of different things, which are making the people feel like they have no control on what's going on and they feel a little bit out of control. And that kind of added to the fact that Mars is going retrograde could cause anger. So you see how everything is connected. We don't look at one single thing in the chart. We look at everything. It's all connected. The Mercury going retrograde means that there is misinformation spreading through the media. It is exactly on Donald Trump's full moon. So this could be towards him, right? And his administration. The full moon happening there at the 29 degree mark of Scorpio could mean that there is some sort of revealing, because remember, a full moon is very bright. There's something being revealed at this time regarding this new administration that is being formed. Now, at the same time, with all of this happening, Mars is going retrograde. And this is again telling us that whatever is happening here and activating Donald Trump's chart is making people upset and angry. So there is some kind of connection happening there. Now, this is not only affecting Donald Trump's chart. If you have planets at the 28, 29 degree of Scorpio or Taurus, your chart is also incredibly activated at this time. So just remember that. So now the full moon, happening at that 29 degree mark of Scorpio and Taurus can also mean, because it's Gandhanta, it can mean it's a very volatile time. However, the full moon being in Taurus, there could be financial growth and economic growth or possibility for it in future through the activities happening now. So maybe, this is the new administration that's being picked up or created that is promising something for the coming year. Now, since this is exactly on Trump's full moon, and because Mercury is also going retrograde on his moon in the sign in the fourth house in his chart, he should be a little careful during the end of November till the mid of December. This should be a time where he should be careful, because remember the 28, 29 degree mark of Scorpio, it's not only called Gandhanta, but if you look at the image of the scorpion, It is the tail of the scorpion, which means that he could be the tail of the scorpion. The theme surrounding it is revenge, because this is where the nakshatra Jyeshta is also sitting. Jyeshta nakshatra is often associated with jealousy. That doesn't mean that the person who has it is jealous. It means that there is jealousy surrounding that person. So there could be attacks due to revenge or jealousy during this time frame, especially because this degree mark is activated twice in this month. But a lot of this will get better after the middle of December, because then, these energies start to kind of die down. But in the world in general, there should be any celebrities or world leaders charts in which this is activated, the 28, 29 degree mark, because it's the tail of the scorpion, that's where the poison is. So you should watch what you're eating, what you're consuming. It's very important, because this means that not only is it physically, in the sense that, there could be some kind of poisoning, but it can also symbolically mean that the people's minds are being poisoned in some way. So, especially with Mercury going retrograde, you can't really trust the media at this time. So that's definitely something I want to kind of warn you about. Now, the month of December is very unique in another way. December 1st and December 30th, there are two new moons happening in the month of December. Usually every month there's just one new moon. In the month of December, we have two new moons, and this is called a black moon. This is very rare. Usually what happens during a black moon is that that month is kind of a pivoting point for new beginnings. Remember, a new moon is always associated with new beginnings. Anytime you see a new moon and you start something new on that day, it's auspicious, because you're beginning something new in your life. A new moon is a dark moon that's starting to grow in brightness. So when there are two new moons in a month, which is very rare, it usually means in the world, it's the beginning of new change in a good way. So I do think that this month, even though it seems very volatile with retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Mercury and retrograde Mars, it is still somehow all this shaking up and volatility is leading to some sort of new beginning for the next year. And like I said, when I looked at the predictions for 2025, especially with Jupiter going into Cancer and Venus is going to be exalted in Pisces in the beginning of the year, I do think it's going to be a good year. There's going to be a lot of new beginnings and new changes happening, which could mean that a lot of the promises that the leaders are making to us, the governments are making to us, they might be keeping those promises, because the transits next year look good. Not the first half of the year, because Mars is still debilitated in the first half of the year, but in the second half of the year, things get incredibly better. So seeing that trend, I think everything happening now is kind of leading us towards a good cause. Okay, so that's good. Mars is going to be retrograde, but it will enter Gemini on January 20th. So I do think the inauguration timeframe in the United States, and if there's anything else happening around the world around that timeframe and that week, it's going to be, a very changing and volatile time. There may be some problems around inauguration for sure, but once Mars moves into Gemini, things will calm down, because it's no longer in the energy of Cancer where it's debilitated. So just remember that this is not going to happen throughout January. It's happening only till leading up to January 20th, because on that day is when Mars enters Gemini. Now, here's another thing that makes us think about the deception and betrayal happening in December. There's another planet that is also making a major shift in this year, Neptune. Neptune has been retrograde for many months. And remember, Neptune single-handedly rules everything that has to do with deception and deceit and betrayal. And Neptune, which has been retrograde, is going direct. And guess when Neptune is going direct? December 7th. So I have already recounted 3 major events happening on December 7th astrologically. So the first week of December, because you have to kind of give or take a few days, is going to be high activity for sure. And Neptune rules deception. And because it was retrograde, it means that all the deceiving that has happened while Neptune was retrograde in the last 6-month period. So because Neptune has been retrograde, there's been a lot of deception going on, right? As it goes direct on December 7th, a lot of that stuff is going to be revealed. People are going to find out the truth about a lot of things because Neptune, as it goes direct, it's almost like payback time, right? Whatever has happened when it was retrograde is going to start coming out. So I do think that kind of really ties in with the media and the news and the Mercury going retrograde and all of that. So this is crazy. I mean, the first week of December, all these major transits are going on. So this is, it could mean that there was actually a veil that was pulled down on people's eyes, and a lot of untruth was spread. And all of that karmic circle is now going to come full circle, and it'll all be revealed. So, and the fact that there are 2 new moons happening in December, which is very rare. Everything that's happening in December, even though it's a necessary shaking up of the environment, it is going to create some sort of a new beginning for various areas, right? Not just United States, but also for the world in general. Now, like I said, with all of this stuff going on in December, I know it sounds like, it's just so many changes happening. But I do want to tell you, once we get to the June, July timeframe in 2025, and that's around the time in June, July of 2025, where Jupiter has already entered Gemini. And it's also going to be a time frame when Mars is no longer in Cancer, which is good. And then going towards the end of the year, where Jupiter quickly goes through Gemini and enters Cancer in October of 2025. I do think the second half of 2025 is going to be very, very good for the entire world. So, and again, when I say good, I'm going to give you very specific predictions when I do my 2025 prediction, which is going to be very detailed and comprehensive. So, I wait for that video to find out more about that. But I do know by the research I'm doing now, things do look really good at the end of 2025. Now, the moment, the time frame we are in right now is where Mars is debilitated. In the end of 2025, we are going to be in an opposite time frame in a good way because Jupiter is going to be exalted in Cancer. So it's kind of, this shaking up and everything is happening, but it's giving way to new change, which is necessary in the world. So this is the reason why December is such an important month, astrologically, for United States and for the rest of the world. So with that being said, I'm going to close. Be sure to like and subscribe this video. Thank you so much.